Hi, guys. Cecile Edwards here of the Mommy Matters podcast. I have to tell you, if you have not heard about Anchor, it is the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Did I tell you that you can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership? It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download your Anchor app or go to Anchor FM, anchor.fm to get started. You will not be dissatisfied. Welcome to the Mommy Matters podcast, where Mommy Matters is a double entendre that states and declares that mommies matter, where we have conversations surrounding mommy matters, from conception to pregnancy to postpartum, mother and father wounds, dating, mindfulness and self-care, spirituality, parenting, discipline, legislation, money, and so much more. It is my hope and my prayer that the information that you gather here serves as a blueprint for generational and individual ascension. Enjoy. Welcome to the Mommy Matters podcast, and I am your host, Cecile Edwards, where we discuss mommy matters, specifically around wellness, spiritual care, intergenerational healing, and other topics. And it is my pleasure today to have Katie Germain, who is an occupational therapist and does wonderful work with moms in particular in assisting them in their wellness journey before and after having children. So Katie, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello. Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Such a pleasure. So Katie, how about you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got started in this area of life and what it has taught you about wellness?
Sure. Yes. So, my journey to where I am today professionally has been a combination of both personal and professional experience. I've been an occupational therapist for 7 years, which occupational therapists, or OTs for short, are a part of the rehab team who help adults, children, anyone at any stage of life get back to their meaningful activities. So for a long time, what that meant for me was working with older adults who may have had a stroke or have had chronic illnesses or falls that impacted their ability to safely do the activities that they needed to do, whether that was dressing, bathing, caring for their home, caring for others. And I did that kind of rehab work in the home setting. And so after having two of my own beautiful little boys, and seeing how much motherhood impacted how you dress, how you bathe, how you care for yourself, how you care for others, I started to do some research and coursework into applying the OT model to maternal health, specifically pregnancy and postpartum.
Excellent. So tell us about, because I met you because I was doing an event and you have a business that you co-run with someone else. So tell us about that, because I think that's the perfect segue into what you just said.
Yes. So your event was so fun, by the way. We really had such a nice time at your wellness day. But our practice is called Strengthen Mama, and we are a maternal home health service, and we provide occupational therapy services to clients who are pregnant or postpartum. And we provide those services either directly in their home. We come to them, alleviating that stress of needing to make appointments and find childcare, or we provide those services virtually. and we are licensed to treat anyone in the state of New Jersey.
Excellent. I love it. So tell me more about this. Give me some details. So I just had my baby and I'm looking for some assistance. What would be the difference between getting an occupational therapist, getting a postpartum doula, getting a nanny? How does that integrate, or how does it separate?
Sure. So I think integrate is a wonderful term to start with. In any kind of rehab setting, but especially in maternal health, I think the more you can use interdisciplinary care, meaning use all those members on your team, using your nurse, using your postpartum doula, using your occupational therapist or your support team for childcare, bringing all those parts together really gives women the best care. But understandably, and for a lot of reasons, a lot of women either don't have knowledge or don't have access to these services or all of these services. So if you were looking to focus on one thing, or to start with occupational therapy, we provide service packages that are either preventative in nature or rehabilitative. So meaning we can work with you while you're pregnant or while you're postpartum to try to prevent or offset or decrease those common conditions that come at this time of life, meaning maybe a mood disorder, a separation of the abdominal wall, changes to posture, or just changes to your overall stress and ability to manage this really big life change. Mm-hmm. So the services we offer are very diverse and very individualized. So it really just depends on the person, on maybe what it is that they're looking for. But our services comparatively to like a doula or a caregiver type service is we are meant to be more of like a treatment model where we're coming in, we're doing an evaluation, we're doing an assessment. Where are the areas that you're having difficulty? We work with our clients collaboratively to make a treatment plan, and set goals to help them reduce their symptoms or prevent some of their symptoms.
That is very powerful because this, first of all, integrative model, because you can't really separate anything, right? We try, but it's really not. Yes. And I love that there's a treatment model and a treatment plan that really seems to focus on what the family needs, but also what their strengths are, and what they can bring to the conversation around what their wellness needs are. I think that's very important when you're looking at setting goals and really seeing the whole person, right? So, right. What are some of the most common concerns you see with postpartum moms?
Sure. So while we, Stephanie and I, Stephanie is my business partner at Strength and Mama, while we are certified as both PMHC providers and PCES providers, which those are different terms for mental and physical health, we have seen primarily people that come to us, postpartum moms that come to us for their physical concerns. So whether it's pelvic floor pain, whether it's urinary incontinence, weakness at the core, pain at the upper back, or general pain and weakness after all those changes that your body experiences during pregnancy and postpartum healing. So those have really been the primary reasons that we have had our moms come to us so far.
Wow. And those are things that I feel like I'm thankful are being discussed more, right? It's definitely not something that I knew about when I had a child. The pelvic floor concerns and consideration, you always just hear, you have the baby, you should be happy. And, so anytime, there's some kind of concern and you feel something in your body, it's almost like you don't trust it because, of what you've heard all your life around what this experience should look like. I feel like there's a whole lesson in there that I could have a whole nother episode about, but but I love this because people are getting into trusting their own bodies and their experiences and then finding what is best for them to ensure that their overall wellness concerns are met. And that is what it's all about. This is why I always say self-care is so individual that I can say some general things, and I can say things that are very, based on what I understand and what I know of my experiences. But the truth of the matter is that I need to know what it is happening with you in order for you to be able to gain the best, from your wellness journey. So I absolutely love that this is, you do the work that you do, and you do it in concert with others who are dedicated to this process of assisting people in living their best lives, as the youth say. That's the other, component to living your best life. We always think it has something to do with material things, but no, it's about the internal best life that you can live, the life where you feel that you're seen and you're heard, and that your concerns are valid, and that you can address your concerns without, feeling like there's a lot of others telling you what to do, whereas you're feeling into what it is that you can do that's best for you as well. I'm curious as to whether or not, because I had a whole conversation with a colleague of mine about how, the models of care around parents. And I've been having this conversation for years personally. And now I'm, again, so very happy that this is a thing that's coming into play, is that we have to integrate family members too, right? Like, how do we integrate the father, right? Because we know scientifically, we took our maternal mental health course together, by the way, through, this is how we met, through PSI. And we know, I learned from that course, which I did not know before, especially in the detail that they shared it, about the impact that fathers, having pregnancy and postpartum has on fathers, like literal physiological changes that parents have, that men have, or partners have. So how do you also work with family members to, I guess, integrate the concepts and the goals? And does that happen a lot as well?
Sure. So that's a great point. And it's, speaking of things that haven't been addressed, I mean, women are just coming to the surface as far as being more open and honest with these conditions. And I think, when it comes to men, I think we're even another 10 steps behind as far as acknowledgement and awareness and open discussion about these conditions for them, right? Especially when it comes to men and mental health. But the super fun thing, and what I love about being an OT, is that our theories, our practice models are looking at an individual, at their environment, at their support system. And, so that's what makes it fun to really consider all these factors for them, and how to pull them all together, because that's what's really going to give someone the most success, right? So if I'm coming in and I'm working with mom, and maybe she's just come to me because she's having pelvic floor weakness, right? And we're doing our exercise program, but of course, ladies, we chat. And when you create a nice safe space for your clients to open up to you, and they're talking about the stresses or the difficulties that maybe they're experiencing with their partner, that their partner's experiencing, and it creates an open dialogue to brainstorm together, like, how can we provide more care, or is there more follow-up needed for mom's mental health or for dad's, or how can we put in different communication strategies, or how can we come together and maybe make more of a schedule for time for physical and mental wellness that maybe we didn't have to do before baby, right? Because maybe before baby, mom had her routine for things, dad had their routine for things, and now that we have this beautiful little peanut and everything's flipped upside down, those routines are right out the window. And so how can we come back together as a family unit and kind of put those pieces back together? Maybe it doesn't look the same as before baby came, right? But that's how we can brainstorm and work together to put those pieces back together, whether it's for mom or for dad.
Yeah, so very critical to, it's like this little small, as you said, peanut comes into the family and completely upends everything.
Oh, yes. Yes, they do.
Like, and the smallest person in the home just running the home. Okay. So it's endearing, and it's, again, a life lesson in there somewhere. So So one of the things that came to my mind as you were speaking, I'm always thinking about accessibility.
Mhm.
In terms of who gets the opportunity to have an occupational therapist. And we know that, perhaps everyone needs one, irrespective of your socioeconomic status, your, race, your ethnicity, culture. I think in a lot of cultures, some of these concepts are sort of built in to cultures, in terms of, like the sitting in or the laying in period that, in
Right.
African American traditions or African traditions that women do for, 6 weeks. Like, you don't go outside, you stay inside, you're taken care of, you're fed, all your needs are met, all of those things.
Right.
Doesn't mean that women still don't, or families don't have challenges. But I wonder what are some of the perhaps accessibility concerns that you may have viewed, besides financial?
Mhm.
Because we know
Yeah.
financial, we always go to that, but what other accessibility concerns? Because I can say that, even as a doula, postpartum doula, convincing people or trying to find the comparison to traditions that people already have, to the work that you're doing, can sometimes be a challenge. And the first thing that most people think about, that's why I say irrespective of finances, the first thing that people often think about is finances, myself included, because if something comes up and you're like, dang, how am I going to pay for it? But sometimes it's oftentimes it's more than just payment and how you're going to pay for it, but the mindset that can be switched in order to perhaps
Yeah.
allow, these kinds
Yeah.
of things to come in. Because I know, for example, when my daughter was young, I used to always think about having to pay a babysitter, but I'm like, no, how do you rely on your support system that you already have to, you know what I'm saying, to develop that support system, to develop yourself, to develop the individuals in your support system so that you can, live a robust life without always thinking about how you're going to pay for something. So
Yeah.
hopefully that was a clear question, because I know that it went up to
Well,
a
yeah,
lot.
that was clear, but I think there were like 30 questions in there, so they were all really good questions. I think the first part that you started talking about as far as accessibility, right? So outside of financials or insurance or providers that offer sliding scales or maybe do pro bono work based on the situation, right?
Mhm.
I think the first line of accessibility would be education and awareness on these services. It wasn't until I came into this field that I really learned about all the work that doulas did. Like, I had
Mhm.
no idea. I had two children. I work in healthcare, and I thought doulas like assisted with like a home birth. That was my
Mhm.
understanding of doula. And then I come in and I meet all these wonderful women and all these services that they offer and the postpartum care. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if I knew that existed when I had kids, right? So I think the first thing is just getting the word out and making people aware that there are things that are available to you just beyond your OB appointments, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Sometimes people think that's what I get, my every couple weeks or my 6 week appointment, and that's it. Um, and I think the other component, touching upon some of the things that you were asking as far as the different like cultural models and the sit-in period, and I think especially speaking specifically for our culture and the current times we're in, is that we are very much in the thick of superwoman syndrome.
Oof.
And the social media pressures and we live in a more individualistic society, and for a lot of families that kind of cultural support is not there, or it might cause stress to the mother accepting it because I'm supposed to be able to do this myself.
Mhm.
And I think kind of understanding that pressure and deconstructing that pressure for ourselves to be able to then uh, want to accept this kind of help and to then be able to build the support systems that we need.
Yeah, it's really
mental process because, from my experience, honestly, there's pushback from the people who you want to rely on in your communities too, right? There's going to be people who are just not going to want to do it. They may say, oh, you putting off your child on somebody else, but it's like, no, my child is a part of the community too. I'm a part of the community, my child is a part of the community, and I desire to have you input, right, into my child's well-being, and that's putting input into my well-being as well. And I think that we even need to shift the language and the narrative around that sometimes in families, and realize that it's not just about the time that you're spending, it's about the energy that you're giving to this young person. And that really matters, because that's what it is. That's what wellness is. It's giving yourself back energy.
Oh my gosh, of course. So even for myself, I know, like with my first child, I know I felt so much stress when others were caring for him, because it was kind of that same pressure that I was talking about. Like, it should be me. I should be able to. I should, right? And a little bit older, a little bit more maturity, a little bit more of my own wellness pieces in place for myself, and the beauty of the second child, where you get to kind of learn from your own mistakes. It really gave me a nice perspective shift that, no, when they're with, auntie or grandma or whomever, they are doing things for them that I maybe don't do, or that I maybe don't have the space for right now. And so they are filling their cup with all of these wonderful things. And then it's giving me space to do whatever it is that I need to do. And that shift really, for me personally, helped me to ask for help in a more clear way and to accept the help with less stress. Because even if someone was helping me, but that help caused me stress, I still was feeling, deflated when it was done, instead of feeling like I had time to recharge. And it,
exactly,
a while to get there. But
absolutely, I love that. Yes, it's like, I love this understanding that your child is getting something from somebody else in these diverse perspectives and views, and yes, your child can handle that, right? And because I've been around children enough to know that children adapt in the situation based on what the situation is, right? So when they go to grandma's, they know I'm gonna get some candy or whatever. When they're home with mom, they know, you're not eating that candy. When they're hanging out with dad, they know that they're gonna be playing rough, because dad's I sometimes do some extra things that I'll be like, Lord, don't. But there's an adaptability, a level of adaptability there. And that's the kind of adaptability that adds to their brain development and their functioning. And, we always talk about the trauma, the ability to adapt to trauma, but no, your child also is adapting to many perspectives and ways of seeing life. Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually great, because now you learn how to accept people for how they are and who they are. And it also helps you to develop your own internal being, right? And how you see yourself in the menagerie of beings.
yes, yeah. And just simply to be able to say, like, this is, even if just for today, this is what I can offer others. And that's okay. I don't need to wear all of the hats all of the time, because I am able to rely on, these other people in my corner that are helping me do those things. And
exactly. I think that that's absolutely a powerful thing to realize. And I love that there's a space in conversations in occupational therapy too, where that can be had. And I love that you mentioned also the education and awareness, right? Because that was a huge part of the event, the Maternal Wellness Day. It was, getting people to know what is available, what's there out here. Because I've said it many times, we live in New Jersey, that there's so many things available in New Jersey, but people just don't know what they are and where they are and how to access them, and, those kinds of things. And I feel like, the more we know how to access things and what we can utilize for our wellness, we can try different things and see different things, and then make our decision based on what we feel like we need to know. And of course you'll try things and it won't work, but you keep trying, right? Because the ultimate
Right.
goal is
Yeah.
for your own wellness. So I'm curious as to how long, like when you set goals and such, what is the time period that you work on goals, or is there no time period and you just continue to work on it with them? Because it sounds a lot like coaching to me, to be honest with you. It
Yeah.
sounds like coaching and therapy in a certain way, like a hands-on version of that. So I'm curious about the goal setting and how that.
Sure. Yeah. So for our practice specifically, we are a cash-based practice. So we, not getting into logistics of reimbursement and super bills and everything, but the point of saying that is because we have the leniency, the flexibility to create a plan that works for our individual clients. So I have moms who are like, I want to see you twice a week for the next 4 weeks. And we're working at a more rapid pace, and our timeframes might be dictated by how quickly their body's responding to treatment. It might be, dictated to how much they're able to carry over their exercise program. And I have other moms that are like, I'm committing to do this, but like life is crazy right now. I have 2 kids under 2, and we go at a slower pace, and I might see them once a month. I might see them, every couple weeks. And our treatment time is longer based on what they need, but we're meeting moms where they are with what they're able to do. So it doesn't become that, restrictive all or nothing model. Like you need to go to the outpatient clinic 3 times a week or you can't get care. Right. And so what mom with a newborn is feasibly, I know it happens. I know people can do it and they have really wonderful support systems. But for moms that might not have that or might not have that comfortability to leave their baby, then we bring it to them, and we bring it to them at a pace that works for them. So it's really it's very individualistic. It's not like a set like, oh, 6 to 8 weeks, or it just really depends on them and their availability and how they're responding to the program.
I love that. I absolutely love that flexibility, because you can access more people like that, right? As opposed to, having a strict, but of course there's also pros to having a set program, but there's also a lot of pros to having that level of flexibility.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's not like there's structure to each plan of care that we create. Um, if you're only doing a session here and there randomly, right, you might not be getting the same results as someone who's diligently doing this, every week. And so results may vary, but like I said, we try to just meet people where they are so that they can access the services, because sometimes the system is so overwhelming. It's like, okay, forget it. I'll deal with this later. I'll deal with this never. And, they don't get the care that they need.
I hear you. That's so the final question that I'll ask is about, so on the treatment team, who else is on the treatment team? Of course, their doctor, perhaps. Do you talk to their doctor? How does that work? Is there that kind of relationship that's built?
Sure. So yes, so in general, right, occupational therapists work in an interdisciplinary manner. So if there's a larger treatment team, we're talking with the physical therapist, the social worker, the nurse, the doctor. In our particular case and the clients that we have had, we're mostly just working just one-on-one with mom. We have the option, of course, to always follow up with the doctor, or if there were any medical concerns coming up, or obviously if there were any red flags as far as changes to mental health or more care being needed, we check in. But right now we've mostly just been working with mom. But the idea of working with the team, working with the doctors is always available.
Okay, wonderful. No, I love that. I love that balance that can be struck with working in a team.
Yeah.
And just that extra level of support. Like
yeah. Well, like my one, so in New Jersey, we are a direct access state. So what that means for occupational therapy is that you don't need a prescription to come see us. So that eliminates one extra step of having to make an appointment to see your doctor, to get the script, to call, to call us. But there's like one client in particular, she was very open, very honest with me, and she was seeing myself for occupational therapy, for C-section scar management and core rehab. And she was seeing a mental health counselor. And there was one week she just was like really having a hard time. And I was like, do you want me to, like, can we chat? Do you want me to talk? And, I was able to connect with her counselor and kind of just put some pieces together and communicate with her. So that was a nice experience, and just nice that she was trusting enough to allow me to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love to hear that. So in our wrapping up, what are 3 things that you would say about wellness from an OT's perspective? It could be more than 3, it could be less than 3. I don't know why I said 3, but that you want people to know.
Yeah, sure. So I think the first thing from, I'll start general and work my way down, but the first thing from an OT perspective is that, everything, we are all connected, right? Our physical health, our mental health, the environment that we're in, the foods that we're eating, the amount of time that we're on our phone, all of these things, impact how we feel and impact our sense of wellness. So, whether if you're listening to this and you're like, some of these things are resonating with me, like whatever care provider you choose to work with, try to really make a plan that's going to reflect your entirety, not just the actual strength of your core muscles or your pelvic floor, but looking at all the components that make you to have a really holistic plan. I think the second thing is not being afraid to adapt or modify what wellness looks like for you postpartum and beyond, right? I mean, to me, postpartum is forever. It's not a 6-week period. After you have kids, you are postpartum. Your life is never the same.
Me too.
Yeah.
I say the same thing. I'm like, you are postpartum even when your child is 18, because there's changes happening here.
Exactly. Exactly. So, one of the things that OTs love to do is put on our thinking caps. And if someone's having trouble doing something, how can we adapt or modify that for them? And in a very literal sense, that might mean, okay, we can't get into the shower. How, can we bring in a shower bench? Okay, we can't reach our feet. Our C-section scar is so painful. Can we bring in long-handled adapted equipment so you can dress yourself through the next few weeks as you're healing? Those adaptations can be a little bit more abstract of, I need to change the time that I shower so that I can actually have 20 minutes to myself. So it doesn't have to be an all or nothing approach to wellness. There are ways that you can just modify what you used to do to still integrate those pieces in.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. I think that level of, first of all, the holistic idea, that, you're a whole person. And so, yes, you may try things to just get a sense of it because you've never tried it before. But if you feel like it is triggering to you, or it doesn't, it impacts something else that you're doing or feeling, then that should be something that should be explored and discussed, right? Ensure that your wellness doesn't have to be just a painful experience where you have to push through something in order to, you know what I'm saying? In order to, to be well. It's a process of getting to know, learn yourself, and release some things as well, right? So I love this adaptability idea. And I went to a hotel recently, and there was a bench inside the shower. I was like, oh, I didn't realize this was something I wanted in my life, but it's not like I have issues with reaching my feet or anything. It was just nice to have.
Nice.
And so that's a part of wellness too. Sometimes it's just this extra thing that's like, ooh, I like this. it's not because I have a problem per se. It's just, this is nice, So I love that idea of, finding ways to adapt and find wellness for yourself. So thank you so much for sharing those. How can people connect with you and find your business and, check out what you have to offer?
Sure, yes. So we are on social media, Instagram and Facebook. You can find us at Strengthen Mama. We also have a website, strengthenmama.com. And we are available email, call, message, whatever. If you have questions and you're like, I'm not sure, there's no harm in reaching out. We're not crazy, salespeople. So you can just, you have a question, give us a call. We always say, just because things are common doesn't mean they need to be accepted. So if you're dealing with something and you're kind of just chugging through it and you're like, you know what, this really can't be right, give us a call. We'll talk about it and see if some of the services we have are helpful for that. So
I love that phrase. Just because something is common doesn't mean it needs to be accepted. That's a word to go out on. And I'll absolutely share this information with you all in the notes. And also, Katie, you have a book as well that came out recently. You can share a little bit about that, and I'll share the link also to
Oh, sure. Great. Thank you. Yes. So I just self-published a children's book. It's available on Amazon, and it's called The Honeybees Recharge Mommy Bee. And tailing off of all these concepts we've talked about of wellness and adapting and modifying it, it teaches kids why moms need time for rest. And the book itself gives some examples on how moms can rest and recharge, and it just creates a very kid-friendly dialogue for moms and kids. And what I love about it, and what I love presenting this message in a children's book and instead of maybe just in an adult platform, is that if mom is able to model these wellness strategies, it helps her in the moment. And it helps her children in the long run, because they are then able to mirror back what they've seen you do, and they are integrating these wellness practices from a much earlier age.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that. There's so many things
Thank you.
Put into children's minds about how life actually is, or what life is, right? And I love this idea of putting it in a book and having parents be able to, teach that, so that's wonderful. I absolutely love that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katie, for joining. And thank you all for listening, and we will see you on the next episode.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care.
Did you like that? I know it was as informative for you as it was for me. Look, this is a process for all of us. And to keep this process going, I would love to invite you to donate to our podcast. We want to continue to give you high-level content, beautiful content that enlightens and inspires and broadens your vision to elevate you and evolve. So please feel free to go to the podcast page at anchor.fm/Mommy Matters. We would love to hear your questions and comments as well, so that we can discuss them in future podcasts. And you can email that to mommyevolve@gmail.com. You can also visit the website and send your comments there. www.mommyevolve.com. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Peace and love.